I should mention a little bit about why I have a passion for applying this particular sort of technology, not just to things like education, but also to advertising. In my view, advertising serves a critical function in civilization. What it does is it romanticizes progress. It romanticizes creativity. It romanticizes advances. Without it, we don't tell our own story. Now, that said, I have the same love-hate relationship with advertising that I bet many of you do. I used to do jingles for the local market here in New York, and I remember one time I was in a cab, and an ad for a furniture chain came on. This was in the 90s. And the driver had the radio on loud, and there was this cloying, annoying jingle for this furniture chain. And I told the driver, "Oh, can you turn that thing down?" And of course the driver said, "Hey, if you care about the radio so much, get your own cab," or, you know, the usual New York thing. And then it hit me, I did that jingle. Oh my God, it's me annoying myself. And has that ever happened to you? Where there's like some, I bet it has, you know. And so the thing about advertising is it's often criticized, and I think a lot of the criticisms have some weight. You know, it can be annoying, it can be patronizing, it can be trivializing, blah, blah, blah. But the thing about it is it's romanticizing what we do in that way is still absolutely critical. The overview as I see it goes like this. Modern capitalism started around 400 years ago, you could say, you could argue about that. But essentially, it's always been driven by this idea of betterment, that the world is becoming richer, people are becoming more capable, things are on their way up, which is what we call a growing market. If markets don't grow, markets die. Capitalism is not designed for a static future where nothing ever changes. If you want to live in a world where everything's already perfect, you don't choose capitalism as your system. Capitalism is about optimism, about believing that the future can be better than the past, that there will be inventions on many levels that we couldn't have foreseen, that our children will live better lives than we did. This is what it's all about. And that expansion used to come from a wider mix of sources than it does today. It used to include colonialism, it used to include population growth, it used to include various things that have hit their limits. But what we still have is the most important source of growth, which is innovation. Science, technology, cultural creativity, these things we still have. But because as things progress, the only sources of growth are based on creativity, romanticizing that creativity becomes absolutely critical, or else we starve. You know, I mean, we've signed up for this game for keeps. The game of the human race, very much like the story just now about storytelling versus story building, reminds me of a wonderful book called Finite and Infinite Games, about games that end like basketball or games that never end, like the overall field of basketball. Once we enter into being human at all, we're an infinite game where we don't have an option of being static. We have to keep on going. Now, with the advent of the internet, there's been a new concept of advertising, and both Microsoft through Bing and some of our competitors you've probably heard of play this game in which advertising isn't quite as romantic anymore, and it becomes a little bit more about optimizing customers with businesses, finding matches, finding correlations, providing the service from the server's point of view of making the world more efficient. That's great. It goes pretty far, but it isn't romantic, or at least it isn't romantic enough. The other part of advertising, the older part, the part that's based on amazing storytelling, amazing design, amazing creativity, amazing levels of engagement, the part that's based on emotion and surprise, that part is absolutely critical to the future of this giant game we're playing as a species. And so here we have to ask, where is the future of that romance? Where's the future of that intensity of design? Now, I think the answer has to be understood in a slightly different way than it's usually understood. Instead of thinking about what gadgets are out there, instead of thinking about what kind of internet designs can connect people together in more optimal ways, all that sort of thing, I think what we need to look at is biology, because fundamentally, This is about people, and people are biological.